And that's not it's this week. We're leaving on Wednesday, I think. That's tomorrow, we'll take-
You can't hear, just let us know. Oh, I thought you said that. It'll be somewhere wonderful. Jane, how are you? We finally got our money. Like 4 hours till it's getting. I can install a grant. We should have like interest. No. But better. Later than never.
Yes.
What?
Very popular.
Well, like marijuana, but
It's like fun, right?
okay, well, there's a fun for the next school.
Get you out of class, I don't. Sprayed in the hallway today.
We're so glad you came.
Right, that's perfect.
Say when you get it ready.
No, I'm in.
Talk about how everything gets turned really short. Say the whole sentence and then people know what you. It's so weird.
Not.
Okay, yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd like to call to order the March 18th, 2025 regular meeting for the Oakmont Borough Council. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Roll call, Bianca?
Yes, we have Mr. Arnold,
Okay, I couldn't see her or hear her.
Mr. Arnold,
As long as we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Barely.
Huh. Okay, Mr. Arnold,
Here.
Ms. Leonardi,
Here.
Ms. Orme,
Here.
Vice President of Council Pagnata,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
and Borough Council President Ride.
Here. Thank
Yeah, I think you forgot me.
you.
What? Orme, and
Paris is also here.
I thought I said Paris
It might have been at
right
the
after
beginning when we.
Pagnata. Okay,
Okay.
Okay,
And Rocco.
but you're all here. That's what matters.
and Rocco, she's not on this. And
Is
Rocco
he supposed
Brown, our
to be, is
student.
Rocco supposed to be
member.
on the roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. We're gonna begin this evening, with our, proposed ordinance. And, we're going to be talking about, new parking ordinance. And I'm gonna turn this part of the meeting over to our solicitor, Jake Leland. And I thought we would begin with him, giving a short summary of the history and where we stand and what this new ordinance says. And then we'll call for any public comment, anyone that wishes to speak. So, Jake, it's all yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, Borough Council will be holding a public hearing on a proposed zoning ordinance amendment titled an ordinance amending chapter 205 of the Code of Ordinances of the Borough of Oakmont, known as the zoning ordinance, by updating parking requirements for the commercial district. The proposed ordinance would amend the zoning ordinance to allow new and existing uses in the commercial district to rely on nearby on-street parking and public parking facilities to meet the zoning ordinance's parking requirements. Specifically, uses permitted by right can rely on on-street parking spots in public parking facilities that are located within 300 feet of the property line. Conditional uses can do the same so long as the conditional use applicant proves by submission of a traffic study that doing so will not create traffic congestion and or parking concerns. For properties that previously obtained conditional use approval, the borough zoning officer will review the traffic study and make a determination. Substantively, I would note the proposed ordinance is nearly identical to ordinance number 01-2023, which was challenged and invalidated by our Commonwealth Court in November 2024 on the grounds that the ordinance still denied equal protection and that it only applied to new uses. The proposed ordinance seeks to remove that distinction and apply equally to both new and existing uses in the commercial district. Procedurally, the proposed ordinance was presented to the Oakmont Borough Planning Commission on January 23rd, 2025, at which time the commission recommended that it be approved by council. A copy of the proposed ordinance was then provided to the Allegheny County Department of Economic Development on February 3rd, 2025. A response was received from the county on February 25th, 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you. Notice of this hearing was then duly advertised on March 3rd, 2025 and March 10th, 2025. Before I begin, I would like to introduce the following exhibits into the record. A copy of the proposed ordinance will be entered into the record as Council Exhibit 1. A copy of the February 3rd, 2025 letter to the Allegheny County Department of Economic Development will be entered into the record as Council Exhibit 2. A copy of the February 25th, 2025 response letter received from the Allegheny County Department of Economic Development will be entered into the record as Council Exhibit 3. And a copy of the proof of publication evidencing that tonight's hearing was duly advertised in the Valley News Dispatch on March 3rd and March 10th will be entered into the record as Council Exhibit 4. At this time, will those persons who plan to speak at tonight's hearing please stand and raise your right hand so to be sworn in by our court reporter.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you answer to God on the last great day.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Wright indicated, tonight we will begin by hearing public comment. At the conclusion of public comment, council can deliberate on the proposed ordinance. So at this time, we will open it up for public comment.
Please state your name and address.
And spell
Sure. My name is Joe Vickless. It's V as in Victor, ICKLESS, 108 South Oak Hill Road. I'm co-owner of Local Remedy Brewing at 531 Allegheny Avenue. I'm speaking tonight as a representative of local remedy. So ours is one of several new small businesses that are opened in Oakmont in the past few months. In that time, we've talked at length with customers in the tap room, some of whom also own businesses. One of the top comments that we've been hearing is that residents are very happy we're here because one, we make really good beer, and two, because we're frankly a novelty in town. We're a new business in what many felt was the same old landscape with little growth. People obviously are ready and excited for new faces, new ideas, and new opportunities that will come if you pass this ordinance. Nearby restaurants have told us how their sales have noticeably increased when we're open. Back in December, while we're still having our intermittent soft opens, we had someone come to deliver pizzas 5 or 6 times in one evening, and eventually they came up to the bar and they said, "My manager needs to know what your hours are because we just weren't ready for this." So that kind of symbiotic success among businesses will only grow if you pass this parking ordinance. A home brewer and his wife, whom we know from previous Brewfest, drove down from Oil City. That's a 2-hour drive. They spent the whole day here and they spent money throughout the neighborhood because they came down to visit a new business. Establishing new destinations within Oakmont that appeal to a variety of demographics that didn't previously have a reason to come to town can only happen if you pass this ordinance. I mention these instances in particular to demonstrate the kinds of positive impact that any new business can have if it can just get its doors open. But that's not possible without a common sense parking ordinance that considers all the pertinent factors, including public safety, economic growth, and that benefits both existing and new businesses. This parking ordinance checks all those boxes. We're grateful for the opportunity to be part of this community. We were so warmly welcomed long before we even poured our first beer. And we do not want to see that door slam behind us. So we encourage you to vote for this parking, vote yes for this parking ordinance. Thank you.
My name is Gusty Sinceri. I live at 378 Cloud Chapel Road. I'm the attorney for John Keefe, who lives at 838 7th Street, Oakmont, PA. We adamantly object to this ordinance. The individual who just came up here mentioned that somehow this ordinance that's going to cause more congestion, it's going to make the roads more unsafe, it's going to cause people to park across the railroad and have to travel across the railroad to other businesses, is somehow in the betterment of the health, safety, and welfare of the people. Let's start with this. The reasoning for you passing this is a ruse. It is because you were attacking one individual, and that's John Keefe. You do not care about the health, safety, and welfare of the people. If you did, then you would look at this ordinance, would have had a safety, an evaluation, a parking evaluation done already, which you have not. You are allowing companies and businesses to come in that are presently in violation of the present ordinances, and you don't care. I think that the words that I speak today will fall on deaf ears because of you care about one thing, and that's your disdain for John Keefe. You know, you could smile if you want, but that is the truth. When asked, why do we need this ordinance? We were told for change. Why did Oakmont need to change? I think it's a gem. Personally, I don't live in Oakmont per se, but I love coming over here. You know, it's a gem. Why do you want to congest? Well, why do you want to do this? I don't understand. And when I don't understand something, that means something's going on behind the scenes. And there's something going on behind the scenes. And we'll expose that. And we will, if this is passed, we will have to file an appeal. But I'm hoping that you won't do that, that you'll do more of a study, that you'll hear from more people, and this will be passed.
Dave McCurdy, MCCURDY. Montelli, Dan. And I was gonna get 2 for 1. I can talk about parking. One of my favorite days that I liked them, was Oakmont Bakery, where they moved out. Where I was from the deli. And my mainly close people say, why aren't you open on Sunday? It's because they were there. And their traffic parking was so bad on the upper boulevard, it would take up all the spots. The census for me to even be open. There's no ordinance about weekend parking. There's 3-hour parking during the week, but there's nothing on the weekends. So it was a free for all. I don't know whether I'm for or against it. I'm for all the good business down there, but when John reopens, the other restaurant, it's gonna be such a concentration of good businesses. That's gonna overlap, and I'll never open on a Sunday. That's probably the best thing that ever happened. But it's gonna start hurting Saturday business. I know the brewery opens late. So it doesn't affect nighttime, but I had not only been open at night anymore because of night markets, food trucks. Parking is just a nightmare up there. My suggestion would be that the parking fines $10. I mean, if you talk to David Brantley, he used to be a chamber member, a a council member, and a police officer for Officer Ford for I don't know how long, 30 years he was here. And he was the parking officer, and he could probably still recite the license plates. They were the same people that park there every day, which are mainly business owners. They're not people get their hair done and visiting a Mont Deli and sitting down at Hostels all day and the brewery all day and any place all day. It's business owners. And I begged and pleaded, I don't even join the chamber anymore because they won't address non-chamber members about parking down there. God bless, I miss David Brantley bad. He was down there every day, 11 o'clock, doing tickets. I know you guys are stretched thin, don't want to do it, but you know, Verona has a woman that she does secretarial work in the office in the day and goes out and writes tickets. Believe me, she writes tickets. But $10 is just a write-off to all these guys, you know. They're all good, the customers of Mont Deli, but they're killing their own business along with mine. Because they're parking in spots that customers could. People just drive right through Mont, they can't park. Half of them don't want to parallel park, can't parallel park. I've had women come in that are 80 years old and say, can you park my car for me? That's a honest to God true story. And I would go out and park their car. I can't see anywhere to begin with. But I mean, it's a free for all parking. And $10 is just a write-off. I won't mention certain businesses, but there's businesses down there that they just write it off. They write a check every month. They take that as a parking fee, just like going downtown and opening an office. The employees park, they just take that $10 tickets. They write a check every month. Sure, you know who they are. They come through the borough check. And Officer Ford, I'm sure you know half of them. Will disagree with you. That's just one person's opinion. They grew up in Oakmont, loves Oakmont. I went to a doctor's appointment last week and the doctor almost cried. He moved to Oakmont so he could walk to restaurants that are in Oakmont. He said, I never in my life lived somewhere that I could just walk anywhere I want and get any kind of food I want. And he almost cried it in the office. They love it so much he moved here. And it's not Oakmont residents that pay that $10 parking, that 3-hour parking. It's mainly business owners. And my employees all do not park on the boulevard. I demand they do not park on the boulevard. They don't park on Lower Boulevard. They find somewhere to hide up on. I feel bad for the people in Maryland and Delaware live up there because all the businesses park up there. We used to park at the church, done to the church every year. Church stopped that. So maybe the borough can work out something with the church, business owners. With the Catholic Church on Maryland Avenue for years. I wrote them a check to donate for extra parking. My employees and a lot of other people do the same. I won't take up anywhere down working, because you'll hear me get on the food trucks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening?
Thank you. At this time, we will close public comment and open up council deliberation.
Okay, so. We've talked about this over the last couple of years, a number of times, and so tonight we'll go around and anyone who has a comment. Would like to raise anything, let's, want to start with Chad, you want to start? Or?
I had several comments on the letter from the county of Allegheny, the Allegheny County. I think we should add the language that distinguishes. Oh, I'm sorry. I've never been accused of not talking loud enough before. I think there should be language added to the ordinance that makes the distinction between the planning commission's power and borough council's as the ultimate authority for approval of conditional uses.
That change has already been made.
Okay. The other question I have is, do we have plans to engage in a traffic study specific for this parking ordinance? Or are we going to look at the accumulated traffic studies that have been done as a result of the new businesses coming in and they're obtaining conditional use approvals?
Well, the decision as to whether to undergo a traffic study is a decision for council to make. When a conditional use applicant comes in and seeks to take advantage of the parking ordinance, they obviously have to supply their own traffic study. However, the borough obviously does have the ability to engage in its own traffic study prior to passage of tonight's proposed ordinance if it so chooses.
I'm just scrolling through the comments that I've made on this PDF. And then my other question was, can we stripe the handicap parking spaces all along Allegheny River Boulevard and Allegheny Avenue? Strike them. It's about a new subsection shall be added as 801F and shall read, for purposes of this article, an on-street parking space shall be a legal parking location on a public street where parking spaces are not striped or otherwise marked on an on-street spot must be shown to be 20 feet in length. And I was wondering if we have done any striping to delineate distinct parking spots.
Most of the parking spots have been painted and lined in,
Okay.
but there are certain places where they aren't. Like on Allegheny Avenue, some of that area has not been striped. But it's still open to be counted as parking, is my understanding.
Thank you. That is all I had. John?
Well, I guess I'm gonna repeat something Deb said. That, I think we should have professional traffic study, safety study done prior to approving this ordinance. If nothing else, we've had a traffic study and safety study presented that took a negative view of the ordinance. It's only wise that we engage a professional engineering firm, give us a traffic study and safety study, which either confirms or refutes the professional study that was provided in opposition to this. Right now, we're essentially saying, well, we don't have a traffic study, and we want to ignore a professional study that was provided just because we didn't like it.
John, could I just ask you, when was that other study provided and
The study opposing the ordinance was provided at one of the original hearings on this parking ordinance.
Was it the letter, it wasn't just the letter that we.
No, it was provided with two witnesses. There was a traffic engineer and a safety engineer who presented their studies.
They were
It was there.
No, it was just.
Why?
You gonna show it to us?
I can hear your question.
Would you be able to show it to us?
I believe.
Are you asking me? I don't keep the records.
I believe it was previously provided to council
Yeah.
relatively
Maybe not
recently.
when, maybe.
No, they weren't here.
maybe
Yeah,
they
we weren't
yet.
here. Yeah, we weren't here. This was brought up last week about, last week, but, about the previous traffic statement. We still haven't seen it.
It's not my function to provide records that are part of the public record. If you wanna get that, get Fody to go in and get the records. They were presented to the borough, not to me personally.
I understand you're making a point. I'm trying to understand that point.
Well, why are you asking me?
Might have it.
Just thought you might have it with you.
I don't have it in my pocket.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would ask council to try and speak one at a time for the court reporter to make it
Okay.
a little easier tonight.
Okay, well, maybe I should finish my comments. One, I think we should have a professional traffic and safety study before we approve this ordinance. And the other is, I'm wondering if there's some kind of compromise in the meanwhile that can't be reached, so we don't shut down a business which is currently operating.
But we don't shut down one that is currently operating.
I don't wanna shut down local remedy, I mean, I think there ought to be some kind of compromise that can be arrived here. But I do think we should have that study. My comments.
Thank you. Amanda Pagnotta.
Can you just clarify one more time? When a new business would come in, they would get. When a new business would come in, it would be on them to get a traffic study.
If the new business is a conditional use, yes. A use that's permitted by right is allowed to take advantage of existing on-street parking spots and public parking facilities without the requirement of obtaining a traffic study.
So,
Sure. A use by right is anything in the zoning ordinance that's simply allowed to come in. For instance, and I don't have the table in front of me, but a small retail shop would presumably be a use permitted by right in a commercial district, meaning that special approvals aren't needed. The other type of use that's allowed to come in is a conditional use, which requires the certain criteria to be met and to receive council approval. So for instance, a tap room is not a use that's listed under the zoning ordinance. There's a provision of the zoning ordinance that says if a use is not listed, then it's deemed a conditional use and it requires conditional use approval. That requires the applicant to go through the planning commission, get a recommendation, and then get approval from council. If a use is required to go through that conditional use process, that's when they would need to obtain a traffic study if they wanted to take advantage of or count on-street parking toward their parking requirements.
I just feel like that is the safety piece built in to ensure in the future, we are making sure that new decisions are safe for our community members. I think that having one right now almost feels arbitrary because it would need to be decided on a case by case basis based on where something new is coming into town, where that particular place is going to be located, and how that particular new place will impact traffic. having a study right here and now is not going to impact something that we can't possibly plan for in the future.
May I piggyback off of Amanda for a minute? And if I am not mistaken, our engineer is able to evaluate a parking study. We don't need an outside engineer, is that correct, Jake?
I believe LSSE can review a traffic study. One of the comments that was received by the county was that the borough may want to consult with a traffic engineer to review any traffic studies that are submitted by a conditional use applicant. I think the council would need to have a conversation with Sean Woodgrove of LSSE to determine their expertise with respect to reviewing traffic studies. But I do believe that the borough engineer stated that it was within LSSE's capabilities to review traffic studies previously.
I believe I heard that also.
I'm not done yet. To me, having a traffic study of Oakmont as it is fails to be future minded of what Oakmont will be. And I'm excited to see new businesses come into Oakmont. And I love the developments that have been in Oakmont, and I may not know this, but I have family that works at the deli, and I have a special place for the restaurants that are owned several by Mr. Keith. I told my daughter was that I was expecting a daughter at one of them, they hold a special place in my heart. So to insinuate that we have some ulterior motive is frustrating, and it's insulting, and
A lot of compliment.
it's frustrating, to be honest.
I've talked to them.
And
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think that, I think the point of the ordinance is to consider that there's an opportunity for growth in Oakmont with some new and some neat diversity, and we're in a weird position because Oakmont is landlocked, so we're only as big as we're ever going to be. And so we have to decide, what will be safe for our community, and I think that has to be evaluated as new things pop up instead of what in general makes sense. And so I think that evaluating that for conditional use makes the most sense. And I like that we have addressed the concern with the created two classes, and thank you for pointing that out, and we have addressed that and fixed that, and so I believe in this ordinance, so.
Yeah, I would just like to see that traffic study that John's quoting, but to make this point, we are growing, and looking to see what things points out the traffic study, for not everything, because we're changing something, we have some negative effect with the overall, that might be. So it's really important to see that.
Please speak up.
Sorry.
I would just love to see that traffic study, just so.
I'm looking for it, but somewhere in my drive.
I would suggest formally ask borough manager to provide it. If it was part of the public record, he should certainly have it.
Anything else, Isaiah?
Yeah.
Okay. Jen?
I
This is Jen Pierce.
Yeah, I second everything Amanda says, and I think that we should do a traffic study for conditional use and use an engineer if our engineer is good, we can contract out for an engineer to look at that parking or the traffic study. But I agree that new businesses are bringing in lots of money to the community and life to the community, and it's much needed. And to be honest, I haven't found an issue parking anywhere. I have not found an issue parking since the brewery. And I'm honestly down in that area.
You're actually nowhere near that.
Jamie Leonardi.
And Jake, again, I just, for a point of clarification, again, this ordinance is the same as the ordinance that went into effect in early 2023, with the exception of grandfathering in previous owners, correct?
When you say grandfather.
Yeah, I don't have the right word. Can you?
So it's essentially ordinance number 001 of 2023 was enacted. It was obviously challenged and invalidated on the grounds that it violated the equal protection clauses of the United States and Pennsylvania Constitution, in that it created two distinct classes of individuals, which includes businesses. Essentially, the old ordinance was interpreted as saying new uses in the commercial district have the benefit of having on-street parking, and they don't have the burden of maintaining a parking lot. Whereas any use that came into the commercial district prior to the enactment of 01-2023 could not count on-street parking and had the burden of maintaining a parking lot. What this ordinance does, the only substantive change in this ordinance is that it now makes it so that it applies equally to both new and existing uses. So it is identical in theory to ordinance number 01-2023, except that it now removes that class distinction and brings it within compliance with equal protection.
Okay, thank you. That's super helpful just to make clear, because I question the use of spending additional money, taxpayer money, on a traffic study when we've seen this ordinance be essentially in effect throughout 2023 and until November of 2024. The ordinance was in effect. We saw real world results. We all live in Oakmont and we experienced potential traffic changes. We saw a new business open, which was a great benefit I got of the parking ordinance change. And I heard many positive comments from constituents, from neighbors, from friends and family about the opportunity for new businesses to move in. I heard zero complaints during that time from friends, family, constituents, neighbors, that they couldn't find parking any longer. So, or that anybody was increasingly unsafe. So for that reason, I would not encourage a parking study when we've had, again, the real world demo for over 18 months. We saw the positive impact. I agree with Amanda that I think the way it's written, there are still guardrails built in for conditional use, those traffic studies. And so for those reasons, I am in support of this ordinance yet again.
Thank you. This is just me. Sometimes I feel like I should take a little bit of blame for creating this problem, because when I first started attending the zoning hearing board or the planning commission, this was one of the things that I brought up with them, is that I knew of various buildings that had not been renovated or people had not moved back into to bring in new businesses because they couldn't meet the old parking ordinance. And this is what planning commission came up with. And I think it's a very good change. And I think you can look around town and see some of the new buildings that have just been renovated, like the old Hunter grocery store is now a beautiful building as you enter town. And part of that is because of this change in the parking ordinance. And the breweries and others that that allowed them to come in without the on-site parking. And I think it's a reality check for a small town that there is no space behind many of the buildings that can be used for parking. If you look at the block between Delaware and Washington, that there are offices facing the boulevard and offices facing Isabella and different businesses. Well, there is nowhere that those businesses can turn to for offsite parking. So this to me was a very good bill, and it was not aimed in any way at any one person. And about the traffic study, my recollection is that the study that was presented 2 years ago when we were doing this was looked at, and I don't think people, some of the experts that we talked to, I don't think saw it as a necessary step. And having been on council off and on for the last 20 years, we did traffic studies when the bridge came in. We did traffic studies as each of the developments were done. And those end up kind of covering the whole town over the years. And to now have it just rest on the new business owner to get a traffic study for themselves, by going with the suggestion that was made to us by the county of having one engineer or one engineering company that we will contract with, which is part of the plan, is that engineering company will gradually become totally familiar with the whole community and the traffic and the parking. So as each one comes in, they're going to be building their own base of information that will adjust, as Jamie was saying, as the town changes. It's not a static kind of study. It is something that is going to change as each new business arrives. So to me, when we look at all the ones we already have and then look at the way it's now structured, to me, that's a good way to approach it. And I personally think unless the town keeps changing, unless new businesses come in, if we don't have change, if we don't, as people leave, give an opportunity to someone new to start in that space, maybe a totally different kind of business, I think we'll stagnate. And I think a local remedy is a good example of new idea, something that's current, and it brings more people in. It'll bring more people to all the restaurants. It'll bring more people to all the business. And that would be true of each, to me, of each new business. As you have, say, Mystery Lovers bookstore, there's a lot of people that come to town solely for that. And then once they're here, they go to the deli next door. And they walk down the other way and go all the way down to the Precious and Posh. I mean, once you're here, you're much more likely to go to all of these things wonderful things we have. And each new thing, I know I go to new restaurants in all over the city that appeal to me. I don't keep going very often because it's so much easier to eat here, but it does make you want to go try it. So I think that this new ordinance is good, and I support it. That was turned into a long speech, I'm sorry. So we can move on, and if someone would like to make a motion to consider adoption of proposed ordinance 01/2025, please do so.
So
Oh, okay.
And I will second.
Okay, Deb Orme moved and Jen Pears seconded that motion. Okay, and yes, right. And we will do a roll call vote, and we'll just, Bianca, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Mr. Arnold,
Well, I'm gonna have to vote no, because one, I'd like to see the study I mentioned. And secondly, I think, Nancy, that you're just reading what the county asked, what the county suggested. They suggested we engage a professional engineer to evaluate studies as they come in, not to perform.
No, that's what I'm saying. Evaluate what comes in.
There's a difference between evaluate and perform.
Yeah, not perform. There could be the evaluators.
And I don't see how evaluating studies coming in is going to build up a big database. I think you're just reading what counts, what the county
Okay,
said, but
but you're voting no.
voting no.
Okay, Amanda, or, I'm sorry, Bianca?
Yeah, Ms. Leonardi,
Yay.
Ms. Pagnotta.
Yay.
Ms. Paris,
Yay.
Mr. Wilson,
Yeah.
and President Wright.
Me too, yes. Yeah.
Tried that. Or May.
Oh, Deb Orme too.
Did I not call you? I'm so sorry. Ms. Orme,
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, this, ordinance number 01-2025 has passed, by a vote of 6-1. Okay, thank you. Audience, you're free to stay or not, whichever you prefer. We won't take it personally if you want to leave. Okay, we'll take, general comments from the public now. Is there anyone who'd care to speak on any other matter or? No? Okay, moving on to correspondence. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry, I should have talked about that at the beginning.
I just want to make one comment before you.
You want me to let me tell them about the food truck and then you can make the comment?
Yes.
Okay, just as you'll notice on the agenda, we noted that we had initially planned to discuss the food truck ordinance tonight. But there were some suggestions made by the county and we are looking into those and this will be on next month's agenda. Your comments?
This isn't for or against, but reading the ordinance that we will consider, I'd like to see in that ordinance a little more specificity as to who approves, who issues a permit. Right now, the ordinance talks about two things, one, the front desk with, that doesn't really say who approves a permit, and also it mentions the chief of police. So I'd like to know who actually issues the permit, whether it's the police department or the borough manager.
It specifies the police department, we can't.
No, it doesn't, it mentions the police department, it doesn't specify.
And it mentions the role then too, but we can't talk about it right now.
Correct, so based off of the feedback that we received from the county, what we discussed at our last workshop meeting, I'm gonna go and separate the proposed ordinance into both zoning and non-zoning ordinances. The non-zoning ordinance will have to go, or excuse me, the zoning ordinance will have to go back to the county for their review. The non-zoning ordinance is just something for council to consider. I will do my best efforts to get that to council before the April workshop meeting. John, I'll make note of your concerns and make sure that it specifies who oversees the issuance of the permitting.
You one person.
Completely agree. The zoning, yes, the non-zoning, no, that wouldn't go through planning commission.
Okay. All right, so this will, at this moment, we expect it to be on the agenda next month. So, we had quite a bit of correspondence, over this past month, and much of it was in regard to the food truck ordinance, and so we'll talk about that next time when we talk about the food truck. We'll probably compile that, and our student member has spent time in reviewing people at the school, and we will include that in that information, and so that'll all be at our next meeting. Okay. We did also. We also got a letter that was addressed to me from concerned residents. And I just am going to talk about it in general because there may be a number of people wondering. This writer they're saying is from residents of Oakmont and the Oak Glen neighborhood adjacent to Oakmont Country Club. And that the concern has been, they've been excavating the steep hillside above Allegheny River with large bulldozers and building a wide road around the back of the golf course on holes 15, 16, and 17. The excavation is being done at night, he says, to conceal the project, which is troubling that the borough would approve. A massive number of trees and ground roots were removed from the steep hillside that runs to neighboring properties. The road is dug over 40 feet below the surface, and the neighbors have had to deal with nightly noise. So he's asking, why are we allowing this? And we are not. All of this property is located in Plum Borough. We don't have any control over this. And the Plum Borough has their own land development plan and review and approvals, which were finalized. Scott told me before he left that they were finalized in 2023 and 2024. And so any community members that are concerned about this should be going to Plum Borough and registering their worries with them. It's not our property. And the only thing that we have been involved with the country club in this recent time is some site improvements for the upcoming open. And that was for stormwater management plan for the country club and the Presbyterian home. They're adjacent, the touching spaces. So just wanted to pass that on. If you hear somebody worried about this, tell them to go to Plum. We do not have any say. Yes, John.
I think we also, in addition to stormwater. A few years ago, we also approved some construction of the country club from there. Expand the golf training.
Yeah, and that's that's all done, and it was mostly the sewer. It was just like a little sliver of that's in Oakmont, but it was I think it was around the sewer project, tying in these various buildings to the train. Yeah, so just so people know, pass that on if anybody raises that question with. Okay, we have our minutes. I'm just gonna go down the list and see if anybody had any other corrections to the minutes they received. One of the January 21st minutes, we had talked about at a prior meeting and had a change and a correction, and that was made. Are there any corrections to the January 7th, 2025 work session minutes? No? Good. No further any further changes to the January 21st minutes? No? Any corrections or changes to the March 4th, 2025 work session? No? And finally,
I can't find it, but I noted it. And it's the meeting where Rocco was sworn in and approved his name. Lines 83, 87, and 90 on the minutes for January 21st.
his name
is misspelled, yes.
Okay. All right, correct that. And February 18th, 2025, regular meeting, any changes? No. Okay, the three that have no changes, January 7th, January 21st, and February 18th, then are approved as read. Finally, we will vote on the March 4th work session minutes with the changes noted by Deb or made to be made. And with those corrections, all those in favor of accepting these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All
Wait,
those
I'm sorry. I
opposed?
thought she said that it was January 21st minutes.
I'm sorry?
I thought you said it was January 21st minutes that needed to be corrected.
No, we already did that. It's
so-
the March 4th.
So did she send other corrections beyond what she just said? Because I thought she said that Rocco was January 21st.
I couldn't understand.
Say, she thought Rocco was January.
It is.
Dispatch.
Oh, Deb, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I thought you were talking about the next one.
We can't hear you, Bianca.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, you're right, Bianca. She was talking about the other minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so January 21st with those changes made. Let's just take that vote again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And so that is now passed and the other three are accepted as read. We have some new members. Can you hear? Shall we wait?
Thankfully, our short recorder back.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. How long does this last, Isaiah?
Last, 9 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Seems a lot longer.
Yeah. I know. Very well. Okay, well, let's just, yeah. That's all right. Okay, there we go. Okay, the recreation board had, one opening, to be filled for this year. And they are, would like to appoint Alexander Myers of 821 Delaware Avenue to the Oakmont Recreation Board. And that's for a 5-year term ending December 31, 2029. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is Mr. Myers present? No, okay.
He's not taking his dad's spot.
Right, okay, that's what it is. He's taking Doug Myers. Yes, he's filling that. Okay, yeah, because Doug resigned, or did not choose to re-up. I think he had 25 years. And then, for which he is owed many thanks. Did so much over those years. So Alexander has been approved and we will swear him in at our next meeting. Then we have the minutes from the Boulevard project and they're in everybody's packets. And they had 3 openings, also having had retirements of very long-term members. Joanne Anderson, Sherry Ehrlich, and Doug Myers, right? So they are proposing Brandon Adams of 7th Street of Oakmont, Jesse Best on 5th Street, and Christine Little, 1st Street. I'd like to make a motion, would someone like to make a motion to approve those 3 people? Okay, so Brandon, Jesse Best, and Christine Little are approved. And I believe they all are going to be on the same cycle, a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2027. And they too will be sworn in at our next meeting. Yes.
Failed to take part.
Oh, picky.
You get a second, yeah.
All right, I would like a vote on that.
Well, I'll second first.
Okay.
Okay.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? That passes unanimously. I know, and I have a lot of trouble done presenting, not just skipping that part. Okay, we also now have a motion to approve resolution number 3. Maybe someone else should make this motion. Amanda, would you like to make that motion? No, write it out.
Resolution number 3 of 2025, authorizing the borough to dispose of certain records as set forth in the Pennsylvania Municipal Records Manual.
Is there a second to that motion? Isaiah Wilson seconds. And, would you like to just talk about that for a second?
Yes, ma'am. So every year we have to destroy documents. They are allowed to be in storage for a certain period of time, depending on what the documents are. So we just went through all of our files and records to get a listing of all the documents that need to be destroyed this year.
And that's done very carefully, and it's mostly things like checkbooks. Things
It's
that,
all set forward by statute.
right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That also passes unanimously. We now for community planning, Oak Creek Church has, is planning to do an addition to the church. And, we have two different, we have a lot line revision and the land development plan. And,
Both of these went through planning commission previously and were recommended to council for approval. Borough engineer reviewed the same, didn't have any issues with them, it's just a simple lot line revision to transfer a portion of the parcel located adjacent to the church to move it over to the main parcel and then add an addition on, a small addition.
and that they need the, lot line because the property with adjacent to, the Elks is gonna be a smaller area than it normally would be. And we looked at this and we looked at the pictures in the prior meetings and it's moved through all the appropriate channels. So now we're at the point of approving the Oak Creek Church, Washington Avenue lot line revision. Isaiah's moved. Is there a second? Who won that? John Arnold, seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That also passes unanimously. And then the last part of that project is to approve the land development plan. So could I have a motion to approve the Oak Creek Church land development plan?
Make a motion to approve Oak Creek Church land development.
Okay, Mr. Arnold made a motion to do so, and Jamie Leonardi second. This is all much easier when you're all present, because I can say the hell who's talking from over here. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. Your turn, Jamie.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant list for February 2025 and the total amount of $469,643.40.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Amanda Pagnotta seconds. Any questions or discussion? Warrant list, no. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That also is unanimous passed. Public safety.
I'll submit the police report. Questions, feel free to answer them. If you get any concerns or questions from citizens, the light at Holt Road, Allegheny Avenue has been messed up. We've never worked for it. What happens is during all the construction, the accessories short cycle the light, help with traffic disabled. So I talked to Ed Miller, who's our PennDOT charge of our light. Currently, there's a grant, I think the borough submitted, he told me he's looking into it, that will be all replaced with radar. But currently, he walked us through yesterday, resetting the light. It's called a recall cycle, so that it should be functioning much better. What was occurring was cars, if they didn't move up exactly far enough, it will skip the entire cycle. So some cycles on ARB were getting missed 3 and 4 times.
Oh,
We got that addressed. Also, if you get complaints addressing that needs council approval, a bit of approval for the light coming across the bridge. The speed sign, the radar sign, got damaged in the storm. It's resealed and the pedestrian signs were replaced today. But the sign will not be working for the foreseeable future until we get it turned in. Replacing that is our responsibility.
There's a pseudo crossing near the bridge for for students, there's a flashing little sign that comes on. They would cross the road. It's not like. Is there any way we can make that bigger or brighter? I noticed a lot of people.
It's going to be moved. They got rid of the far crosswalk towards the bridge and like created one. Sign was designed for two crosswalks. Scott's currently getting bid. Move the two sides closer like they are on Lake Street.
Well,
So you'll see them much better and clearer.
There's still a question. Can we get something that's bigger and brighter? I see a lot of people. Either don't. They just don't stop at that sign, or they kind of see it at the last moment and come to a hard stop.
I think it'll.
Which isn't very safe.
When it gets moved, it will, because they're so far apart.
I don't think you can decide the size.
I think it's the same size. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's like, there's why we can't make it, so I'm saying bigger size it is.
That problem, because it's not where the crossing is. It's not like your eye picks up, the lines on the road where that first sign is. But once it's up where it's supposed to be, I think it'll be much more apparent that there's a crosswalk.
I'm sort of concerned.
Yeah, it's not been the state.
Also, to be honest, you also need to educate pedestrians. Pedestrians that like to push, they're standing back 3 feet off the curb. That is not the actual intent. We can enforce it if somebody crosses in one lane, stops, and that pedestrian's crossing, and the traffic, when we do our enforcement, that's what we're pointing after. Pedestrians also need to know they have to be stepping. That's the way the state law was in PennDOT. This in our meeting, I believe one person from PennDOT down here, and we've watched it. We stepped out on the road, parked and stopped lighting. Tickets for being here. The PennDOT people, but that is one thing too. Pedestrians need to understand it. You can't stop 4 feet back from the curb. Cars are never. But I will take it and see if we can do outline signs, something. That's all I have, other than open meetings are still going on. As far as parking, we should have some more as we get closer. The meetings are twice a month. I'll update you on anything they reviews.
Yeah, we had all the PennDOT down there one morning. It seemed there must have been 7 of them, maybe.
Did we ever approve the request by the US?
No, there's a meeting on Friday. We did pretty much agree to the terms that were discussed. But we have to clarify.
They can't use the courts of the track.
Right, the lower park will be off limits for any of their cars and will be open to use by the borough residents or anybody to play tennis in the kids' playground, and all of that will stay open. And then I'm hoping also that the 3rd Street, this 2nd Street parking lot, the smaller parking lot off to the side there, that will remain just an open parking lot, not one that they will control, so that there is somewhere to park and use it. But that's going to be Monday, Friday.
I had another question on that. They asked whether the fee is that fee what US Open suggested, or is that our suggestion?
But we talked about that last
Yeah,
time.
it's not on the
that-
agenda.
No,
So we
No,
should
that's
not
true.
talk about that.
That's true. Yeah, there's never.
Never approved.
We can talk about things that are on the agenda.
They are being more picky about that. But so that I'll make sure that we talk about it at our next meeting.
Where it says about the lighting.
It's going to be well, any of dot, because it's going to be well over my ability to say this.
Okay, under public works.
I just remembered I had a question. I'm looking at the arrest report and I see something called harassment ×2.
I think that was just 2 counts.
Oh, okay, I didn't know this person was extra harassing.
It was the same person,
2 people they were harassing.
same person, 2 victims.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I saw that too, and I'm like, oh, maybe had a bad day.
The only other thing in public safety, the mayor submitted by email to the fire department report, which I believe you all see.
Could we,
It's on our desk here.
we need to move that into record? It was in our packet.
No, I don't believe.
We can attach it to next month's just for public information. There were, no, or I could just read it in for the moment. That there were 15 fire alarms, car accidents 4, elevator rescue 1.
Where was that?
Down at Monroe Tower.
There were 4 fires, 1 vehicle fire, gas and CO2, 4, and 1 medical system. So that's the past month's fire department report. Okay, and under Public Works, we are, what it feels like finally, but I guess it just takes a long to get to, it takes time to get here, is Hatch Engineering has gone out to bid and for the sewer plant renovations. And we had 8 people interested and asked for the information about the bid, so we'll know April 11th what we have. So we'll
I think we're already seeing clear. It says 8 plant holders. I mean, this is just 8 firms that requested bid package.
Right, that's,
We have no information.
no, we don't, but they were pleased. They were reputable firms and there were 8, it wasn't 2. So it seemed like a good beginning. So we'll see how it plays out. And so anything anybody wants on the agenda for the next work session. If you want to say the topic, take it down and we'll make sure we get it on the work session. Deb, do you have anything you want on the agenda for?
Not at this time.
John?
This isn't really.
This is what?
Actually, why don't we just email?
Okay.
So that way we're not talking
Yeah.
about.
And let's have an actual time limit at which comments can be accepted.
Right, I think Scott had said, there's 2.
By 2:30.
That was,
2:30 we're meeting.
okay, so by Thursday,
Have any of your comments ever been denied?
well, here, that's okay.
Yeah.
So, for right now, assume that it's Thursday at noon, how's that? Okay, if you don't get it in by then we'll have to wait till the next meeting. Okay. We'll take any comments from the public. Does anyone wish to speak? Yeah. Dan.
I mean, knee replacement next month, so it won't be next month's meeting, but the giving. All the restaurant doors know, the brewery might know, or she does all the health department, Elliott County. That's her contact information on the letter A. Maybe they'll discuss it, but if anybody wants to contact for the county. It's got her information. There is a differentiation between PH ag certified and health department certified. The ag department, just as if you're doing brownies out of your house. You can't sell them unless you're ag certified. So if you're ag certified in Texas, you can bring a food truck into Oklahoma. I know this isn't part of the agenda, so anybody can stop me anytime. But to build a little bit on John, you know, not only does it not mention who has the right to issue the permit, it doesn't say anything about the cost. It doesn't say anything about blanket exemptions. Whether the chamber could do a blanket exemption for all the trucks that the county. And it doesn't say who would enforce it. If someone's within 50 feet of the deli, who do I call? I call the police department. Who's enforcing the ordinance? I don't know. I think you have enough on your plate.
I believe originally that part of the enforcement was coming to us. We weren't sure who the other person. The enforcement, I know, will be on us.
Yeah, I know. That's all I would say.
That was Dan McCurdy. I don't know if you heard his name being. Anyone else have comments? No? Well. I'll accept a motion to adjourn this meeting. Isaiah moved and Jennifer seconded, and we do not have any action for this evening at executive session. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about the parking lot and the agreement with PennDOT. Okay. What?
Social media for.
Oh, and the 4 special topics, we could move, which we can do at that. Okay. All right, so we will also put, Amanda will put together our 4 topics at that. But that's also short, sorry, I know everybody got excited. But 1 short, executive session. And, so all those. We already moved and seconded, so all those in favor, aye. All those opposed, so the meeting is adjourned at 8:15. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. You girls need something signed.
Have a good night.
That's what, yeah, that's what I like.
Okay.
You're in.
Yeah, actually.